Hi, my name's Janice Tracey from Janice Tracey Nutrition, and I just wanted to do this wee video on the importance of sleep and maybe give you a couple of wee tips that you can take forward to try to improve your sleep. Sleep, I think, is kind of like the Cinderella of health. It's the forgotten hero that can really help us out whenever we're trying to improve our health status, and it's often the first place that I'll go to with a client. No matter what they're coming to me for, whether it's for balancing their hormones, balancing their blood sugars, trying to lose weight, I'm always going to go in there and ask about sleep. And if they've got problems with sleep that I think I can help with some lifestyle or nutritional tips, then we'll go there first. If that doesn't help, then sometimes there can be an underlying medical issue that's nearly always fixable. So it's so important that I just wanted to share a couple of wee tips with you, because so many people have been contacting me and saying that at this time during the coronavirus pandemic, that they're struggling more than ever with sleep, which is perfectly natural, but there just might be a couple of wee things that you can do to help yourself just a bit more, because we all want to live the best life that we can. We all want to be the healthiest that we can. We all want to keep our immune system healthy and balanced and well supported, and sleep is one of those tools in that lovely health toolbox that is it's just right there for us. So let's talk a wee bit about sleep. I mean, sleep deprivation and less sleep is associated with high levels of obesity, with increased risk for diabetes, stroke, some cancers, osteoporosis, and memory loss. So none of us want any of that. So as much as we possibly can, let's see what we can do to help ourselves. On the plus side, good sleep is really regenerative, restorative, restful. There's nothing better than getting up after a good night's sleep. You just feel that you could rock the world. Sleep really consolidates memory as well. So if you're getting a good quality sleep, your memories are all getting filed away and stored in the right place. So your brain is making good linkages. Great for just to keep in mind for people who have studying to do. If you have a day's learning to do, you need a good night's sleep the night before, but you also need a good night's sleep the night after. You've done all the studying to really consolidate all of those facts and learning. So, at both sides of the learning spectrum, it's really important. If you're trying to lose weight, sleep is really important as well. So getting a good somewhere between 7 and 9 hours sleep. If you're awake for longer than that, if you have longer periods of wakefulness, say you don't go to bed to 12 or 1 and you get up at 8 in the morning, you're awake for a bigger period of the day, then it's more likely that you're going to eat an extra snack or an extra meal. So that's extra calories. But also what happens whenever we are sleep deprived, and sleep deprived is basically in less than 6 hours sleep. So if we are sleep deprived, then our appetite hormones, ghrelin and leptin, the two hormones that regulate our appetite, are all dysregulated, basically just upside down. So ghrelin, and I know that ghrelin and leptin sound like two wee hobbits, but I sometimes think it's helpful to visualize them as such. So ghrelin is actually your hunger hormone, okay? So ghrelin actually shouts out and says, Janice, you're hungry. And that's whenever we get the signal to eat. So whenever we haven't had enough sleep, ghrelin is upregulated. So there's more of it, okay? So there's more of this hormone, so it's shouting louder and it's going, Janice, you need to eat. Janice, you need to eat. More. And I'm going, I've already had my lunch. Say, listen to me. I'm your hormone. You need to eat. It's shouting louder. Leptin, which is your fullness hormone, very weak. So there's less of it produced. So it's not there to say, you're full, stop eating. So if you think about it, sometimes, clients will say to me, I can't stop eating, or, I never know when I'm full. Well, these hormones are obviously dysregulated. If they're not sleeping, I'll go, right, okay, let's try this first of all. Now, there can be loads of other issues around that, but let's fix the things that are easily fixable first of all. And that dysregulation of ghrelin and of leptin and ghrelin can actually lead you to consuming, they say somewhere between 300 and 600 calories a day after a bad night's sleep. So if you're regularly getting a bad night's sleep, that's something to think about. Whether you're on a weight loss journey or not, because you'll be actually putting on weight, and so you'll have that further on down the line. So something also to think about is, and to be aware of, is that we all have a natural circadian rhythm, right? It's kind of inbuilt in us from our DNA, cavemen, whatever. It's kind of like just an ancient thing that we sleep during the hours of darkness. Now, with the seasons changing, and with we're a darkness deprived society because there's so much light around, that can be quite difficult. Sometimes our circadian rhythm gets really messed up. Shift workers, their circadian rhythm is really messed up, but what we need to do is to try to support our natural circadian rhythm as much as possible, and try not to confuse it if we can at all. One of the things to be aware of is the production of melatonin, which is a sleep hormone that actually signals it's time for sleep. And it's activated by darkness, right? So it will kind of come in around the natural time of darkness. A couple of things will actually reduce the production of melatonin. One is the use of your iPhone. So, iPhone, any phone, Android, doesn't matter, tablet, whatever, it's all got this kind of like blue light stuff, right? So using your phone or your tablet for an hour before bed reduces the reduction of melatonin by 50%, okay? Another thing that reduces the production of melatonin is by 50% as well, is if you're indoors all day. Okay, so that's something that would be a wee bit more mindful of now with this whole kind of like lockdown process, if we're not getting out and about as much. So at the very least, what we want to be doing is getting out, opening the door, getting the light at us, getting out round the garden, get out once or twice for our daily exercise, and just making sure that we're trying to get the light at us as much as possible, so that whenever we are going to bed, that there's as much of this melatonin getting produced as possible. One of the things as we get older, not as much melatonin is produced as well, so all the more reason for us to kind of give it a helping hand and not make it much more difficult. So get the phone out of the way for an hour or two before bed, and try to get as much exposure to daylight during the day. If you can. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to have a healthy diet. People who sleep less are likely to consume a less healthy diet. So they'll have more fat, more sugar, less vegetables, and irregular meal timings. So that's just something to bear in mind. Now, that's for a whole other webinar and video in terms of healthy eating, but you'll know yourself if you can make improvements in that area. Tip number 2 is to be aware of your alcohol. Okay, so I think we're on tip number 3. Tip number 1 was the phone and the getting the daylight. Tip number 2 was the healthy diet. Tip number 3 is to be aware of your alcohol. Alcohol is a sedative, so it's going to help to put you to sleep. So maybe you think that's a good thing, but it's not, okay? Because it's the wrong type of sleep. Okay, it actually is a sleep, the sedative type of sleep actually numbs the cortex. So your sleep will be very fragmented. It won't be a restorative sleep. One thing is that it blocks that kind of like dream sleep, blocks the REM sleep, which is really, really important for our emotional and mental health. So important at all times, but all the more so now whenever we may be feeling a bit fearful, we may be feeling a bit emotional or a bit anxious, around the virus. We just don't want to make things worse. So just be mindful of how much alcohol you're drinking and when you're drinking alcohol, and the effect that it can have on your sleep. Knowledge is power, so you have the knowledge, so you have the power over, what you're drinking and and when you're drinking it. Okay. Couple of other wee tips then around kind of like basic sleep hygiene, they call it, which has nothing to do with cleanliness as such. It's just a nice sleep protocol. Is you try to have your room cool, around about an 18 to 19 degrees would be a good temperature. You should feel a slight chill when you take off your dressing gown just before you get into bed. And at this time of the year you may need to have your window open to achieve that, but definitely it shouldn't be too warm. Of course, when you get into bed you want to be nice and warm and cozy, so have a nice duvet and pillows and things like that, but the air around you should not be too warm. Your bed should be comfortable and cozy, and your bedside cabinet should be not too messy, not too cluttered, and not too much clutter around the room, because a lot of research has been done into the fact that that kind of leads to a cluttered mind, and you don't want that whenever you're trying to get to sleep. The most important thing, so this is kind of like tip number, I would say number 5, because tip number 4 there was your environment around the room. So tip number 5 is to make sure that your room is nice and dark as you possibly can. Blackout curtains if you can. And make sure that they're pulled tightly. You have to get a couple of pegs to make sure there's no chinks of light coming through. Make sure that there's nothing charging with charging lights on. If you've got a TV there, that there's no wee blue light coming in, because again, that's sending mixed signals to the brain, and you are messing with your circadian rhythm if there's any light around whenever you're trying to get to sleep. Okay. And then just another wee word on the phone. I know we've talked about that a bit, but as well as the whole blue light thing, a lot of it now is around there's an actual thing called sleep procrastination. So you take the phone up to bed, you plug it in, you get into bed, you're nice and sleepy, put the head in the pillow, and the next thing the hand goes out and you think, I'll just check. And you do a bit of flicking around on Facebook, and the next thing you know, it's half an hour, 45 minutes later, you're not asleep, and maybe the sleepiness is going past you. Or you've heard something, you've seen something on Facebook that has either made you mad, made you sad, or might have made you happy, excited, some good news, something like that. None of that is conducive to good sleep. So you don't want the phone anywhere near you. Keep it well away. If you need an alarm clock to get you up in the morning, then just get one of the old style ones that you're going to wind up, and that's going to get you awake. So the biggest tip I would say is get off the phone for an hour before bed, and don't keep it anywhere near you in bed. And then a couple of wee I kind of call them sleep aids, but they're not anything particular, is a good routine. So have a good bedtime routine. Think about yourself like when you were a child and you had a good routine. What did you do before bed? You went upstairs, you cleaned your teeth, you washed your hands, you had a bedtime story, you tucked in, maybe you had a glass of water beside the bed, something like that. So whatever your routine is, have a routine and do that every night, so that your brain associates all of that with bedtime and sleepy time. Your routine might include some other things that are going to help you to sleep. So a nice warm bath with magnesium in it. Magnesium is nature's relaxant, and you can actually take magnesium as a supplement that can help with sleep. But I would always say, don't go rushing for the supplement if you're going to be on the phone an hour before bed. Get everything else topped and tailed first of all, but then something like that can certainly help. Or a magnesium foot bath. If you find that you do suffer from anxiety, you might want to do something like a brain dump. Write down all the things to do the next day, or a wee gratitude journal, or something like meditation. So some routine that actually signals to your brain it's time for sleep. Okay. And then a wee word about caffeine as well. I don't think I've mentioned caffeine. I mean, I like a cup of coffee, but all of my coffee, and I'll have 2 cups of coffee a day, I will have them before 12 o'clock in the day, because caffeine is a stimulant, and it has a half-life. So 50% of the coffee that you take at 12 o'clock will still be in your system between 6 and 7 hours later, and 25% of it will still be in your system 12 hours later. So that's just something to be aware of. And then I'll just leave you with a final thought around timings around bedtime. Now, everybody has the time that they know that suits them best. But just say you've gone to sleep, or you've gone to bed and you've had a really bad night's sleep. You're waking up at your normal time of 7 o'clock, and you just think, look, I'm working from home. I don't have to get up. I'm going to take these couple of hours to kind of try and catch up on my sleep. In order for you to get your reset, your circadian rhythm, you're best not to do that. Don't lie in. Get up. Force yourself to get up. Get the daylight at you. Go about your business for the rest of the day. Try not to nap. Try not to go to bed too early that night, and just try to reset everything and get back into your routine as much as possible. If you have the lie on, it kind of pushes everything back. Sure as goodness, that night you're not going to get another good night's sleep. So hard as it might be, struggle on, get yourself out of bed, get through that day. And it's a bit what like they advise whenever you're having jet lag, don't try to sleep during the day. Just batter on through the day, and then go to bed at your normal time, if at all possible. So those are my top tips around helping you to get a better night's sleep. And if you do find that you need some more in-depth help on sleep, on hormones, on diet, on well-being, on your health journey, then I'd love it if you would get in touch, and just check me out on any of the social media channels at Janice Tracey Nutrition. Have a great day.